Have you ever observed how some individuals attempt to control things, only to get imprisoned in their own schemes? The pattern is as ancient as time. Those who assume they have control over time frames, emotions, and intentions often confront the painful truth that their actions will come back to haunt them. Manipulation may result in brief successes, but it typically leads to regret, failure, and exposure. Many relationships, particularly those founded on self-interest, have a hidden goal. These interactions are based on a constant goal of control rather than mutual respect or true concern. Relationships for some are about manipulating people for selfish advantage rather than developing lasting connections. They use subtle strands to dominate attention, get affirmation, and retain control over the narrative. However, they fail to see that this manipulation is a game that will ultimately turn on the player. Every falsehood, planned maneuver, and effort to abuse trust creates a trail. And, although they are focused on short-term benefits, they fail to see that their acts have repercussions. No matter how deeply hidden, the truth eventually comes to light. And when it does, the manipulators are left with nothing but the weight of their own failure. Today, we look at what occurs when manipulation backfires, and people who try to control wind up losing everything. It serves as a reminder that no matter how powerful the veneer is, honesty and sincerity will always win out in the end. Feel the spark. Let us transform it into a blaze. Subscribe today and join the trip, because they sowed the wind and will reap the storm. Hosier is 87. A storm builds when individuals plant seeds of manipulation in the belief that they can control the harvest. But, just as the wind cannot be contained, neither can their plans last eternally for the selected ones. This is not the time to falter. It's time to rise, to recognize patterns for what they are, and to recover the strength that has always resided inside. Isn't this a common scenario? You're going ahead, feeling the pull of destiny, and stepping into your mission when they reappeared like clockwork. Their presence disrupts your development, not by accident, but by purpose. They are attracted to your progress not because they applaud it, but because they are afraid of what it may imply for them. These people are like shadows, always there when the light comes on. To maintain control, they attempted to dampen your light by making tiny, deliberate maneuvers. You were never an equal, just a backup. Their pillar. When life shattered, their promises rang hollow. Do they care? A veneer that conceals a thirst for dominance? They studied your heart not to protect it, but to exploit its weaknesses. It's like getting trapped in a spider's web, yet you're still able to escape. It's sticky enough to keep you exactly where they want you. They did not desire your freedom. They wanted you to comply. Every time you got going, they found a method to slow you down. They can locate you if you start to outgrow your current location. They reminded you of every uncertainty, anxiety, and doubt. They exploited your weaknesses, ensuring you never felt powerful enough to break free. But let me tell you something today. God did not make you to be someone's backup. He did not create you to be a stepping stone for someone else's convenience. You were created for freedom, purpose, and a life that reflects His glory. And although they attempted to tie you and keep you under their control, they misjudged the strength of the one who owns your destiny. The labyrinth they created around you was never your jail. It was your proving ground. Every time they attempted to shatter you, they just purified you. Every year, they expended every ounce of energy they had. Creale has been redeemed by the Creator who witnessed everything. You may have felt caged, but you were never isolated. God was working behind the scenes, laying the groundwork for your breakthrough. So now is the moment to exercise the power you've been granted. Recognize patterns, see the manipulation for what it is, an adversary technique to distract you from your calling. They expected you to always be there waiting, but they underestimated the power that has grown inside you. They didn't see the alteration in your soul. You are no one's backup. You are picked and set out for something bigger. And although they may have attempted to keep you little, the fact is this: they cannot contain what God has anointed. Their techniques lose potency the minute you embrace the reality of who you are. Allow their acts to be the whirlwind that they reap, not because we want to hurt them, but because justice is part of the divine order. As for you, make this season your emancipation song. Step out of the web, out of the labyrinth, and boldly into the light to see what God has in store for you. No guy can take away. The fact is that their acts were never concealed from a higher authority. Every deliberate move, every effort to stifle your progress for their own gain was seen and understood while they reveled in the illusory security of their machinations. A larger power was already organizing a tipping point. Their apparent power over your life was a transient mirage, and their desire to retain domination blinded them to the changing tides. The network they believed was indestructible was unwinding, revealing their true objectives and opening the road for your escape. Their selfish schemes were doomed to fail as the balance of justice slowly but steadily arrived. The beauty of divine intervention lay in its modest and understated character, seldom making itself known as they continued their deceitful machinations. A greater power was working quietly, aligning circumstances to restore equilibrium where it had been lost. This was not about retribution or wrath. It was about restoring peace. When someone breaks another person's path for selfish reasons, the balances of justice inevitably begin to tilt. Without understanding it, their own decisions triggered a chain reaction that would force them to face the repercussions of their actions. A critical phase in this process was the introduction of a new attraction into their lives, something that appealed to their vanity and diverted their attention elsewhere. This flashy distraction appealed to their innermost aspirations, creating the appearance of success and pleasure. It was customized to their ego, providing a transient sensation of accomplishment and superiority, but unknown to them, it was the key to your freedom. As their attention switched to this alluring illusion, the links that once bound you started to loosening their grasp and offering you the freedom they strove to deny. Your potential is waiting. Unlock it with us. Subscribe today to begin your change. Unveiling their actual self was never only about liberating you. It was about bringing the shadows into focus. They worked inside. The higher plan was devised to bring their character to light, not only in your eyes, but in the eyes of everyone else who had been unaware of their goals. They relished in the illusion that their cleverness would keep them safe eternally, ignorant that each step they took was driving them closer to discovery. Convinced in their own invincibility, they failed to notice as their carefully created veneer started to crumble. By the time they recognized the ramifications of their deception, the truth had been exposed, leaving them powerless against reality. They attempted to disguise their so-called victory, but it proved to be their doom. A painful irony. They had no idea the instruments they used to tie you would turn against them, becoming shackles of their own creation. This course of events was not coincidental, but rather the outcome of a planned and unwavering justice that left no option for escape. They must now confront the consequences of their wrongdoings, A lesson is weaved throughout their remorse, and while they are still entangled by their own machinations, you have discovered a liberty greater than anything they have ever attempted to deny you. The connection you formerly had with these people was a subtle but persistent power that intertwined your energies in ways that were frequently hidden from conscious awareness. However, that connection has been utterly severed. It is no longer a transitory experience, but a complete reality. The tie that enabled them to draw from your vitality has been severed. This represents a deep and ultimate metamorphosis, in which their access to your light and power is shut off. Whether you behaved consciously or unconsciously, your energy has been recaptured, leaving them clutching at an emptiness that mirrors the lack of what they formerly took for granted. This alienation extends beyond symbolic. It marks a significant change in power relations. The unspoken trade that fueled their egos and increased their authority has come to an abrupt end. Every encounter, idea, and emotional reaction that previously drove their control has been shattered. When they are deprived of the lifeblood on which they rely so heavily, their feeling of power starts to erode. The withdrawal of your energies is more than simply personal emancipation. It serves as a catalyst for the disintegration of their carefully built mask, forcing them to confront the harsh truth of their weakened authority. The whole balance of power has altered, and they no longer have any sway over your emotions or choices. This metamorphosis is evident to them, even if they cannot completely comprehend its scope. Your once predictable emotions have vanished. Their remarks, previously intended to manipulate, now fall flat. The shame, duty, or yearning they previously instilled in you has faded, leaving behind a sense of revolutionary clarity. What remains is a renewed freedom that may have seemed impossible before this great isolation. The rope is broken there. Hold on. You've disappeared altogether. This moment marks a turning point in your path, one in which their influence is no longer relevant to your life. It's not just about letting go. It's about recovering what has always been yours. Your strength, individuality, and tranquility. As this transition progresses, you will sense a lightness that was before lacking, a sensation of completeness that becomes greater by the day. The weight of their presence has been removed, replaced with the knowledge that you are finally free of their grip, fully aware of your own path and purpose. This gap triggered a major cosmic upheaval. When the energy connection was broken, it provoked a global reaction, a realignment that seeks balance and justice. The breaking of that relationship sent off waves, guaranteeing that people who formerly rejoiced in manipulating and belittling you now bear the repercussions of their actions. Their machinations and plots, once a source of pride, have returned to face them, teaching them the lessons they worked so hard to avoid. The reckoning has started, and the balance of cause and effect holds them responsible for all the evil they caused. The illusion of success that they once had has shattered beneath the weight of sorrow. What they formerly used for personal advantage is now leaving them to deal with the emptiness they created. When you restored your sovereignty, the wheels of justice started to revolve. Each instance of deception, every selfish deed they performed, is now reflected back to them with unrelieved clarity. The energy they previously stole from you has reversed direction, exacerbating their feeling of loss and revealing the truth. They can no longer hide. The disintegration of their life may seem mysterious to them, but it is merely the inevitable result of their decisions. Their acts have set off an unavoidable series of events, and they are now faced with the same energy they previously projected. Karma's accuracy is unwavering. It waited for the moment you recovered your independence and severed the ties that bound you to their control. Without any ties to keep it back, this power has acted forcefully, reflecting the devastation they did in a way they cannot ignore. Your fire represents your might. Prepare to ascend. Subscribe now, and let's spark greatness together. The aura of success they previously exuded has vanished under the weight of their own remorse. What they formerly saw as power over you has become a brutal revelation of their own fragility. The reckoning they confront is about equilibrium, not retribution. What had been disturbed for far too long. The scales were tipped in their favor, but the balance has now been restored, requiring responsibility for their acts. They may fight or try to excuse their demise, but the fact is unavoidable. The anguish they feel reflects the agony they caused, a lasting reminder of what their decisions have cost them, as well as the freedom you have eventually achieved. You are now free, entering a life full with previously unattainable options. Their absence allows abundance to flood into your surroundings, a prize for regaining your power. The scheme that destroyed their control is elegant in its quiet perfection. They never suspected the well-placed bait that pulled them in. An individual who seemed to embody all of their goals entered their life, someone who echoed their objectives, fueled their ego, and seemed to deliver all they believed they deserved. Overwhelmed by their own hubris, they accepted this delusion without question. They were certain they had acquired something more important than you. This person was not a partner, but rather a mirror intended to reveal the fundamental weaknesses that had motivated their manipulation. They were enticed by a veneer suited to their vanity, never questioning its veracity. It wasn't about connection or love. It was an illusion that fueled their self-centeredness. Consumed with the idea that they had one, they ignored the underlying fact. They were entering a setting meant to show their real colors. The illusion, which was precisely tailored to their wishes, proved to be their undoing. Believing they had surpassed you, they unwittingly prepared themselves for the judgment that had been silently waiting, the outcome of their own unbridled greed and deception. The heart is deceitful above and beyond everything else. Cure. Who can comprehend it? Jeremiah 17:9. Imagine a potter at the wheel, molding clay with each twist of their hands. The potter has a vision, but if the clay refuses, fractures, or hardens in defiance, the form it takes is not what the potter planned. Our decisions in life form who we become. And when those decisions are based on selfishness, the fractures begin to reveal the illusion they created. The life they believed they controlled has become a vessel that cannot support the weight of its own deception. This new chapter did not provide them with the independence they had hoped for. It was a mirror. Every move they have made has resulted in conflict rather than liberty. Each moment has stripped back the layers of their delusion, revealing the greed and manipulation they use to control others. They felt they were making progress, but in reality they were going in circles, imprisoned by the same qualities they refused to admit in themselves. Then came the reveal. The person they picked as a substitute, whom they hoped would elevate them, proved to be nothing more than a mirror. This was not a real link. It was a cunningly veiled lesson. The relationship they envisaged was based not on mutual respect or love, but on the same selfishness and ego that they had sowed from the start. What they saw as control over their fate was really a thread in a larger plan, one that they could not see. God, the ultimate weaver, has been working all along, directing the pieces to expose the truth. The irony is evident. They felt they were in charge, but they were really pawns in their own game. While their road leads to a reckoning, your way has been cleared. You've risen above their pandemonium, free from the deceptive grasp they formerly had on you. This is your time to rise, to walk fearlessly in your calling, and to throw off the shadows that they attempted to cast over your life. Their unraveling is not your problem. Allow it to serve as a reminder of the force of truth, the certainty of justice, and the strength of walking in God's light. Since you are no longer bound by their deceptions, you are free, selected, and destined for bigger things as a result of their pursuit of what they considered a victory. They found themselves caught up in a painful irony. The relationship they had once cherished as a conquest started to dissolve, presenting itself as a mirror reflecting their greatest defects. The characteristics they once admired become painful reminders of their own manipulative tendencies. What seemed to be a prize suddenly felt like a punishment, as every trick they had used against you was turned back on them. There was no escaping this encounter. They were imprisoned in a loop of their own making. The veneer they clung to collapsed, exposing a harsh, undefined, and viable reality. It was never about you. It was always about them and the decisions that brought them here. Now, as they deal with the repercussions of their acts, the truth of their loss becomes clear. What they believed was a gift was really a curse. A well-planned lecture given with accuracy, far from being a shelter. Their new partnership became a representation of everything they had hoped to escape. They are left to deal with their own hubris, having lost the control they previously imagined they had. The remorse they feel is overwhelming, a continual reminder of the games they played and lost. Meanwhile, you're free, free of their influence, free to go forth and enjoy the life that awaited you outside their shadow. And we know that in everything, God works for the good of those who love Him and have been called according to His plan. Romans 8:128. Imagine a diamond buried deep under layers of soil, pressure, heat, and crushing weight. Everything is intolerable. However, the same force, that constant pressure, is what turns a rough stone into a bright diamond. What was previously concealed, neglected, or even abandoned becomes a treasure. That is your narrative. What others intended was to break you, God used to develop and refine you into something remarkable. Your fire represents your might. Prepare to ascend. Subscribe now and let's spark greatness together. They felt they were dismissing you, leaving you lost and forgotten. But while they were preoccupied with their own schemes, God was moving parts you couldn't see, freeing you from the bonds they had no idea they had put on you. Their rejection didn't mean the end of your adventure. It was the start of your new path. Now, you're standing in the light of His goal. They are no longer bound by their games or views. You've entered a place of power, a moment of enlightenment in which you are no longer defined by what they attempted to convince you of. This is your season to step confidently into the life God has planned for you all along. A life defined not by their control, but by His call to your heart. Because when He beckons you, nothing or no one can stop you. What seemed to be lost was really God preparing place for better things. You are free. You are selected. And you are moving into a mission much beyond anything they could have imagined. As you go ahead, the disparity between your routes becomes more apparent. while others are buried in the consequences of their own choices. Repeating the same patterns, your life thrives. The doors they previously obstructed are now wide open, bringing chances and relationships that have been waiting for this time. The weight of their manipulation no longer holds you down. Instead, you ascend, free to pursue the riches that is your inheritance. Their regret is unavoidable. However, it is not yours to carry. Each stride into this new chapter is a reminder of the life you've reclaimed, free of their shadow and highlighted by the light of your newfound freedom. They feel their acts ensured their win, but they fail to see that they were just building the road for your metamorphosis. What they misunderstood for control was really the freedom you needed to go on with a larger purpose. Now, as you grow beyond their reach, they are forced to deal with the emptiness their decisions have produced, the power they once trusted in. They were disintegrated, and a shield of heavenly protection replaced them. You are no longer a member of the game, untouchable, prospering on your genuine path. Their efforts to return, motivated by remorse and desperation, are useless against the strength you discovered. This is your opportunity to stand up, free of the machinations that formerly held you. This is the end of the narrative, a chapter that will never be reopened. The cosmic bonds have been cut, and lessons have been learnt. Any attempts to return are motivated not by genuine change, but by an unwillingness to let go of the energy they no longer possess. Reconciliation is not a choice, and forgiving does not imply abandoning the limits you established. Their sorrow originates from the loss of their former authority, rather than a genuine comprehension of the grief they caused. You have gone far beyond their grasp, and the door to the past must be closed. Now is the moment to embrace the future. Continue to rise while leaving behind the echoes of a dynamic that no longer defines you. The command is obvious. You must cut all links to their energy. The independence you currently have was hard-fought, and giving them any place in your life, whether via thought, emotion, or presence, will undo the work you've achieved. This is your opportunity to look within, foster your development, and accept the purpose that awaits you. The weight of their previous control has been lifted, but in order to completely embrace this new chapter, you must keep the door firmly closed. Cutting people off is more than simply an issue of distance. It is an act of regaining your authority and guarding your path as you go ahead into this new world. The lack of their influence will make you feel lighter. You may not have realized this was possible. This act of relinquishing their energy is the ultimate step toward your emancipation, the final barrier that assures your total independence. The route ahead is lighted. Guided by a higher power, you have been protected from their efforts to destroy your tranquility. This is your moment to proudly pursue the life you were destined to live. Their remorse is their own, not yours, now that they are free and strong. Your future is vast, full of chances and rewards that were always intended for you. As the last days of October pass, keep going ahead, knowing you are safe and destined for great things. They carry the vestiges of deceit and control, opening the door to a November of change and rejuvenation. The games of the past are over, and those who attempted to undermine you must now face the inexorable repercussions of their actions. Their efforts at manipulation have backfired, leaving them with sorrow. Meanwhile, you stand on the verge of a new age, free and ready to flourish. November is a tipping moment, A new chapter filled with possibilities, benefits, and significant relationships is now within your reach. Your potential is waiting. Unlock it with us. Subscribe today to begin your change. The energy has changed in your favor, and the path forward has been cleared. The moment has come to accept the power that has always been yours and go on into the life you were meant to live. Those who formerly tried to dictate your path now see their own disintegrate, a tribute to the decisions they made. The tables have shifted, and plenty is now yours to take. This is your opportunity to climb unhindered and full of purpose as the future awaits you with open arms.